Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. Welcome to the podcast. So I have quite the guest for us today. I say us because I got a chance to learn with him as well. This is someone who I've watched for years because he has just gone out there and done such amazing work in the world. You probably have heard about him through his docuseries, The Truth About Cancer. He's also done a variety of other docuseries, and this all started because he lost his father to cancer and then several family members, and he just became obsessed with learning everything he could about cancer and about healing and, really freedom of choice in medicine. So I've heard about him for a long time, met some friends of his and kind of coerced them to hook us up so I could get him on the podcast and hear his story, which I think you are going to be as enthralled with as I was in doing the interview. So I'm very excited to share this with you. There is a great cheat sheet for this episode, and he has also given us an amazing gift. So you will definitely want to go to jjvirgin.com/Ty, Ty, and that is for Ty Bollinger. And Ty Bollinger is our guest today. Again, he is the host of The Truth About Cancer. He wrote the book, The Truth About Cancer, and several other books as well. And he's just an amazing health crusader. All right. Welcome to the show, Ty Bollinger. I am super excited you're here with me today.
JJ, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be on. Looking forward to a fun discussion here.
Well, you have just done some amazing things out there in the world with just getting great information out to the masses and in such a hotbed topic, cancer. For those of you listening, Ty put together this documentary, this docuseries, The Truth About Cancer, that has just impacted so many lives. I so appreciate it. So I'd love to know, where did this drive come from? What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question to start. And, I said, I look forward to a fun discussion. I guess maybe that's not the right word for cancer. Maybe more informative would be the proper word. And that's really the whole impetus for what we do, is to inform people. And it all started back a little bit over 21 years ago with my father, who was diagnosed with cancer. I still remember, I just turned 50, JJ, and my dad was 52 years old when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he died in 25 days. So it just doesn't seem...
25 days?
Yeah.
What kind of cancer was it?
He had stomach cancer. And so I still remember my wife, Charlene, and I went to mom and dad's house in San Antonio, Texas to eat dinner one night. It was July the 1st of 1996. And he had stomach pains, and we took him to the hospital because we thought it might be gallbladder issues. And they went in to remove what they said was probably gallstones, and they came out a few hours later and they said, it's so advanced, he's so young, it's cancer, it's all over his stomach. And at that point, my mother collapsed. My brother and I caught her, and they proceeded to take out the majority of Dad's stomach. And over the course of the next 3 weeks, 25 days to be exact, he bled to death, and he actually died from the surgery. I thought at that point that he died from cancer, but he really died from the surgery as I look back on it in retrospect, because the initial prognosis was that he would have about 2 years if he didn't do anything. And he died in 25 days. Yeah.
It's interesting. My dad died of cancer. My dad was a smoker. And I remember begging him. So back then, since we're about the same age, you could smoke in restaurants and airplanes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my dad would literally put us kids. Yeah, remember? He'd like no seatbelts, throw you in the car, no seatbelts, and smoke with the windows up. Like,
Yep.
you're going one way or the other. But he had this really bad cough. And I mean, for years, I begged him to stop smoking. Of course, nothing worked. But he got this really bad cough, didn't do anything about it for 4 years, finally goes to the doctor. Of course, he has really, really bad lung cancer. And what I told him at the time, I go, Dad, if you look at the studies on lung cancer, it's just as bad. The treatment actually, there's no difference between getting treatment and doing nothing. The only difference is you'll feel like crap if you get the treatment. If you do nothing, you'll feel good. So
Right.
Why don't we just support your health as much as possible and have a great time for the time you have left? But he wouldn't do it. And so it was a mess. He had a horrible last couple of years of his life.
Yeah, I didn't know that we shared that. The father that died of cancer, but that was. I'm sorry to hear that. By the way, when was that? How many years ago?
That was 99, 2000.
Okay, same general time period.
First, now where I was fortunate was that I got a couple more years with him. Where I was unfortunate was he wouldn't listen to one word I said. And I remember one of my mentors said, this is when you're just a daughter. He was literally taking Flintstones chewables on the advice of his oncologist. And I go, all right, I'm done. I'm tearing my hair out here. So,
yeah. Well,
crazy.
You mentioned that you're just a daughter. That's one of the things I've learned over the years, JJ, after, doing thousands of hours of research, publishing several books on cancer, trying to help people know that they have other options. One of the things I've learned, number one, is that family is sometimes the hardest to reach. They don't look at you as an expert. They look at you as the kid brother or sister or the cousin or whatever, and you're just not listened to. And I've also learned that you can't persuade people to believe this. You just have to present the evidence and let them make up their own minds. And that's been the hardest thing. One of the hardest things for me and my wife is that we just want to let people know, hey, you've got options. You can do this. You can do it. You can turn it around. But unless they're convinced, it just doesn't work.
Right. Well, and if they're not convinced, it won't work, because I think still the most powerful thing is your belief.
Yeah.
And I think especially for people, our parents' generation, they were taught that doctors are God and, that they are almighty and what they say goes, and not realizing that we actually have a lot of choices. And even if you decided to do some of their traditional therapies, you could augment them with some of, some other things, at the very least, to protect you and help you feel better as you're going through it. So
there's
there
no doubt.
are a load of options. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and what I loved about The Truth About Cancer, is you should know your options. If you walk into the doctor, get diagnosed, and absolutely think you have to take action tomorrow and move out of fear, stop.
I agree.
Take the time, right? I mean, that's one of the things that was great is you put all this information together. You've got the book that someone can go and look at the latest research and then make an informed decision, not a fear-based decision.
Absolutely, JJ. You're absolutely correct. And you said something, you hit the nail on the head. The belief that you can heal has a huge amount to do with your healing. I used to think, a couple of decades ago when I first started reading about this and researching, I thought that was kind of woo-woo. But it's not. It's really not. I mean, your mental mindset, your belief that this treatment can actually work. There's a story that I want to tell you. I've got a good friend that's a doctor in North Carolina, and he had a terminal cancer patient, quote, terminal cancer patient referred to him from a traditional oncologist. The oncologist had given him 6 months to live and said, chemo, radiation, surgery won't help. He's going to die in 6 months. He told the patient, you're going to die in 6 months. The patient comes to my friend who's a medical doctor in North Carolina. He does some natural therapies on it, some detoxification, some heavy metal chelation, all the advanced medicine that I like to talk about. The patient died right at 6 months from diagnosis. My doctor friend sends him to the autopsy to get his body looked at to find out, did cancer go all over the body? How'd we do? The forensic pathologist calls the doctor and says, you sent the wrong patient. This man has no cancer. But he still died when he was supposed to, because his belief, I believe, is what killed him.
When I have a son, you don't know this one either, Ty, but I have a son who at 16 was hit by a car and left for dead in the street. And they literally told us, first they told us let him die, which we overruled them. But when he started to come out of this coma, he had a severe traumatic brain injury, multiple brain bleeds, torn aorta. They said, oh, he'll never, he's never going to wake up. Oh, he'll never talk. Oh, he can't hear. And we're like, I just said, he's going to be 110%. I kept telling Grant, you're going to be 110%. You'll see, you can be 110%. And so even when the doctor told him, oh, you're not going to hear out of that ear, he goes, yes, I am. So we just flipped it. Flipped it, and nothing upsets me more than having someone perceives to be in control, give them this kind of statement, because they'll take it to heart. And if you think, you get what you expect.
Exactly.
So I was like, from day one of my son in the hospital, I'm like, you're going to be 110%. I was like, everyone around me thought I was crazy, but then they started operating from a different place. So I think that is one of those key takeaways is doctors should never say, oh, you've got X amount of time to live. Why? What is that? Stop it.
I agree.
That's just not relevant.
I agree.
So, let's talk about what the heck is going on here, because, we both share this in common that our dads died of cancer. But unfortunately, I think that we are not the rarity out there. I mean, I'm trying to think of someone, whose life hasn't been touched by cancer, from a family member, a best friend. I mean, it's rampant. What the heck is going on, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. And every time I speak, JJ, I've flipped it. So I no longer ask people to raise their hand if they've been affected by cancer or their family. I ask them to raise their hand if they have not, because almost everybody has. And I was getting full rooms of like everybody raising their hand. So it's almost like nobody has been not touched by cancer. It's an epidemic. So what is happening? Well, if we look at the rates of cancer since, say, 1900, the rates of cancer were about 1 in 80 people at that time. Now, 118 years later, it's 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women, according to the World Health Organization. So what the heck has happened in 120 years? Well, that surely shoots a hole in the genetic theory, doesn't it? Because our genes don't change that much in what I guess that's technically 3.5 generations. That's not enough for genes to change to that extent. So what has happened? Well, we've had the Industrial Revolution, we've had the Food Revolution, we've had genetic modification, we've had pesticides, fungicides, herbicides invented to kill pests and weeds, but they also kill us. We've got airplanes flying that were never flying before that are spraying out basically poisonous exhaust on us. I mean, the air's polluted, the water's now polluted with fluoride and chlorine and all other kinds of contaminants, heavy metals. The food supply has been polluted. Every input, every sensory input, whether it's breathing, eating, drinking, even exposure to invisible pollution like electromagnetic radiation from cell phone towers. This is something that's unique. This has just begun over the last 100 years. And I believe, and it's not just me, it's not what I believe, it's what the American Cancer Society states on their own website, that about 80% of cancer is due to environmental causes and lifestyle choices. And the only 10 to 15, and at times 20%, depends upon which document you read on their website, is genetic. So the other 80 to 85% is actually because of environmental toxicity and poor choices.
Well, let's look at the genetics. You had to flip the gene on, so you look at it and go, okay, you could have the genetics for, say, breast cancer, but then you had to trigger it.
Yes.
So what's going to trigger it? Was it toxins, which I believe to be the biggest, oh my gosh. I mean, we could go a whole rant on toxins and what they're doing between cancer and diabetes. And I mean, they're at the root of everything. But you look so often and you see someone who gets under a tremendous amount of stress, especially women, and all of a sudden gets diagnosed with cancer. And you wonder, okay, did the toxins accumulate because your body's a history book, and then a traumatic event, the stress triggered this response? Because you still have to flip these genes on. So even if there is a small genetic component, something has to happen to make that happen.
Yeah, you are correct. You're correct. And what you just described is stress being used in your body as an epigenetic switch. And so epigenetics is the science of being able to override or trigger the expression of your genetic code based upon inputs. And stress has a tremendous epigenetic effect. It can turn on cancer genes. And on the flip side of the coin, laughter, humor, having a good time, just going out and just being carefree can actually turn off cancer genes. So it's really amazing that the way that you behave. I mean, how many people look? We've seen people that live to 100, and it's like they did everything wrong. They smoked, they drank, they ate crap food, and they lived to 100. But every one of those, if you interview them, you'll find out that those people are happy-go-lucky people. They don't have a care in the world. They never did. And that has a lot to say about their longevity.
Yes. And I'll tell you, it's so interesting. When I used to see people one-on-one, I would always ask, so what do you do? And a lot of women, all right, women, my two client bases were either CEO men or working moms. Okay. Those were the two.
Mm-hmm.
I go, what do you do for fun? And they would look at you like, what? Fun, like time off. What do you do?
Perhaps you've heard of that.
Yeah, I'm sure 20 years ago you knew what that was. And it's so funny. It's like, well, my kid's soccer game. I'm like, nope, that is not it. I'm pretty sure like being at your kid's soccer game, maybe it's fun for a little while, but probably that's not the big fun thing in your life. So These are key things that we tend to push out of our life as we get busy that really like, you got to exercise. Mm-hmm. You want to eat healthy.
Yeah.
And you got to put some time in there for fun, mindfulness, etc.
I agree.
And they're so key. And that kind of walks me into, all right, you've now gotten diagnosed with cancer. So let's say that you and I are chatting, we're pals, and I go, oh my gosh, I just got diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. What would you tell me? What would be some of the top strategies you would tell me to do?
So what I would do initially is I would kind of do a little quiz and ask you some questions. What are you currently eating? What's your typical diet look like? What does your exercise program look like? What do you drink during the day? Do you ever go outside and get sunlight? Do you sweat? So there's a lot of things that I would want to know because they're all important pieces in the cancer equation, the cancer puzzle. And, when I mentioned the centenarians there that live 100 years and they ate crap food and drank and all that, I'm not suggesting that people go out and just do whatever they want and try to be happy.
Yeah, that was not a recommendation.
That was not a recommendation. But because not only does stress act as an epigenetic switch, but also food, what you drink, what you are exposed to can also be epigenetic triggers that can turn on cancer genes. So cancer is a multifaceted disease. So I would want to find out, what are you drinking? What are you eating? Are you exercising? Are you sweating? Have you ever detoxed? What are you exposed to at this point, that these environmental toxins that we can minimize, that we can eliminate, that we can even get rid of? And so that would be my first questions. If it were me, so let's just say, okay, I'm diagnosed. First thing I look at is, what am I eating? And I eat a clean diet, but my diet would become even cleaner. It would be, I try to eat all organic, but sometimes I don't. But if I were diagnosed with cancer, it would be all organic. It would be all non-GMO. I'd go to a plant-based raw food diet. I would begin juicing. I would make sure that all the water that I drank was, without exception, was spring water. I would begin to do a rebounder each day. Jumping on a little mini trampoline is the best exercise for cancer, period, because it moves your lymphatic system.
Now, why is that?
It moves your lymph. Your lymphatic system is the lymph carries nutrients to the cells, but it also carries toxins away from the cells. And so if we are looking at cancer as a disease that's a result of poor nutrition coupled with overburden of toxicity from these environmental toxins, then we have to do both. We have to get good nutrition in, and we have to get bad stuff out, the toxins out. The lymphatic system detoxes your body, but if you're not moving, it's stagnant. And we all know about stagnant water. It's poison, right? It's toxic. You don't want to go out in a field, there's a stagnant pond. Nobody's going to drink from it because you're probably going to get really sick. Well, the lymphatic system does not move if we don't move. Unlike the blood that's pumped by the heart, the lymph stays stagnant unless you move. And the best movement to pump the lymphatic system and detoxify your cells is that up-down motion. So I would recommend anybody that's listening to this podcast, go down to your local sports store or your big box store. You can get a rebounder just about anywhere, $100, $150. Put it out in front of your television if you watch the news at night. And while you're watching the nightly news, jump on that rebounder for 20 or 30 minutes, and you will have just done your body a favor. I got
even better.
Yeah.
Here we go, Ty. This is what you really do. You get that rebounder, you put on some ridiculously funny show, and then you get on the rebounder and you bounce and laugh.
There you go. Boom. There you go. That's a formula for success.
You don't watch news. Oh my gosh. You watch news, I get depressed. I can't.
You know what? I would agree with that. Yeah, because there's not, what was the old song by Anne Murray? Won't somebody give me a little good news today? There's not much good news. So I'd agree. Put on something that'll make you laugh.
Yeah, perfect. There. We just got. I love 2-for-1 things.
Yeah.
That is a great piece of advice too. We used to have when I was in a sorority, we had those rebounders, but they were actually using them because they thought they could binge out on cookies and then jump up and down on the rebounder.
Okay.
So that's not what we're talking about here.
So that's a great suggestion. I like that. Put on a comedy show and laugh for 30 minutes while you rebound. One of the things, JJ, that most people don't do anymore is sweat. Unless you're going to a gym, and gyms are all the fad. And I know that a lot of people go to the gyms, but a lot of people still don't exercise. They still don't sweat. And most people don't understand that your skin is one of your primary detoxification organs. And we sweat toxins out of the skin. And if you're never sweating, you're more toxic than you should be. That's a great way to get rid of toxins in your body. So I lay in a sauna every night. I have a little personal sauna that I get into, and I'll lay down and watch a basketball game while I'm sweating for an hour. And so I would recommend that you rebound and you sweat along with a clean diet, and you're well on the way to turning that cancer around. And I'm not saying it's a cure. As a matter of fact, I want to be clear about this. I don't believe there are any cures for cancer. And what do I mean by that? It sounds kind of weird from a guy that's done a couple documentaries called The Quest for the Cures. But I believe that the cure to cancer is you. Your body can heal cancer. Your body is the cure. Now, you may use herbs from the Amazon. You may use viral technology from Latvia. You may use hyperbaric oxygen chambers. You may totally change your diet. But the bottom line is you're detoxifying your body. You're adding nutrients to your body. You're using natural things that give your body the fuel that it needs and takes away the toxicity from your body that it needs so that it runs properly. And then when your body runs properly, it does the healing. It does the curing, nothing else.
Well, so we have a whole theme running through this podcast and everything I do in my community about being your own personal health detective, taking responsibility for your health. So this just like you just hit that one out of the park with that. And what I'm hearing about all of this is one of the things, if you want to flip this around to say, let's say you got diagnosed with cancer, instead of running into fear and blame and freak outedness, what if this was also, and I have a friend going through this right now, and I said to her, you've been doing some things that weren't so great for you. You haven't been putting yourself first. And this is just a wake-up call that can't happen, that you can't treat yourself emotionally and physically like crap and, and not have some, it's going to leave a mark. Mm-hmm. So what if you use this time to get back in touch with you, putting yourself first? And it needs to be a comprehensive approach. And then these are the things really that should be in your life anyway. Like we should be getting in our sauna. I've got a sunlight and sauna in the garage. We should be doing exercise. We should be sweating. I love the rebounder thing because I haven't been doing that. So we'll add that in.
Good.
And I'm going to add one more that I think is one of the biggest health epidemics that I think we have going on. And another piece of this puzzle, I'd love to hear what you think, is I believe that one of the biggest challenges we have now is social isolation. And that the lack of connection is another big problem that we have here.
Oh, I agree. I'm astounded when we go out to a restaurant or when you just go out in public and see people. I mean, everybody's looking down at their devices, running into each other. You talk to people and ask them, did you connect with anyone today? Yeah, I got like 32 likes on Facebook. Well, that's not connecting with people. These devices have isolated us.
Those are your fake friends.
Those are your fake friends.
I was like, those are your fake friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really believe that. I think that's a real problem because we are, as humans, we need interaction with others. We need encouragement. And I think for a cancer patient, that's especially true. You're diagnosed with cancer. One of the things that you just said is so true. You don't need to be afraid. Fear, when an oncologist diagnoses you with a terminal cancer and says you've got 3 months, that strikes fear into people. That should be a crime, in my opinion. An oncologist should never say that. We can't be afraid. Cancer, and I've heard this from multiple cancer patients that were diagnosed with, quote, terminal cancer that are alive a decade or 2 decades later. They said, this was the biggest blessing to me because it made me focus on what I need to do to be healthy. And one of the things that was almost always a part of that healing journey was that they were they were a part of a group that supported them. You need that interaction. You don't want to do this alone, and it's not as successful if you try to do it alone. Not that there haven't been people that have healed without a big group, but I really believe that personal interaction, the encouragement, that really is conducive to bringing overall health back to your life.
I've given you an amen on that, my friend. So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Okay. You, Ty, what is one thing you do every day that you feel makes a big difference in your life?
One of the things that I do every day?
Yep.
Gosh, I think I do several things every day. Probably the most important thing that I do every day is I sit and have a cup of organic coffee with my wife, and we chat about what's coming up in the day, and I make sure that I hug all my kids each day and tell them that I love them. I think that is probably one of the most important things that I do every day. As mundane as that sounds, that interaction with my wife and kids is really important to me.
I can't think of anything more important. There it is.
There you
I'm with you, especially when you almost lose. When you almost lose one, you really realize what a big deal it is. It's a gift every day. So I'm so with you. So for everybody listening, I think the big theme here is, take that personal responsibility. This isn't something to be afraid of. And I know that you have a book for everybody that you are giving them for free, which I love. Cancer Step Outside the Box. Tell us a little bit about what they're going to get.
Yeah, sure, JJ. That was the first book that we published back in 2006. And it was a result of me losing not only my father in 96, but my grandfather, my other grandfather, an uncle, a cousin, and a grandmother, and finally my mother. 7 total family members died from cancer. And that was the impetus for us to write that book. And it's just a very thorough book. It goes into lots of preventions, lots of treatments. I love that book because it was what really got us involved with educating people, helping people, letting them know that they have options. And again, what you mentioned earlier was so true, JJ. This is about freedom. I'm not going to ever force my opinion on anybody. Freedom means that you don't force somebody, but you can certainly give them information and let them choose. So for us, what we do, it's all about the freedom to choose how you want to prevent and or treat your cancer. And nobody should tell anybody else, you have to do this, but we can certainly give them information and let them choose. And it's just all about freedom of choice for us.
Awesome. So you can grab that at jjvirgin.com/Ty, and that is TY. So jjvirgin.com/TY, and you can grab that, share it. And I really appreciate you being with us here today, Ty. You are fabulous. All right. After the break, I'll be answering a listener's question. So stay with me.
Ready to lose fat fast and keep it off forever? Discover the #1 resource for fast and lasting fat loss by visiting jjvirgin.com. Access exclusive videos, content-rich blog posts, and lots of free resources to help you lose weight and feel better fast. And be part of a community. Get ready to transform your life one simple shift at a time by visiting www.jjvirgin.com.
Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. Today's question comes from Kath in St. Paul. So Kath says, JJ, I've pulled out the 7 foods. I've figured out my hidden food intolerances, but I like to have a little bit of sugar every day in my coffee. I know, but does it really matter? All right, so here's the deal. If you said, every year for my birthday, I want to have some sugar in my coffee, it's like, fine, go for it and have a piece of cake with it. That's not going to matter. It's what you do every day that makes the difference. And so since we know that it's not about the calories, it's where the calories come from. And if you're having a little sugar every day, when you have that sugar, you raise blood sugar. It raises insulin, and it can set you off on a spiral. Now, if you're very insulin sensitive, if you work out well, if you've got normal body composition, if your cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar are all like really good, that's the only sugar you're getting, okay, probably not a big deal. But I'm betting sugar is sneaking into other things. It's lighting up your taste buds, and it's a habit that you do every day. And there's so many better options out there now that you could put in. You could do stevia, xylitol, erythritol, lohango or monk fruit, or you can use my sprinkles that are made from glycine and stevia, and actually are a nutritional sweetener. They're actually good for you. So there's so many different options out there that you could be using to replace that. And it's something that you do every day. So why not look? And I like to do this thinking, look at every single thing that I do. And over time, could I upgrade this habit? Could I break that bad habit and put in a new good one? And this is just a simple one to shift. And here's why these things are important. We just did this interview with Ty Bollinger. What a fabulous guy. One of the things that we know about cancer is sugar feeds cancer. So I look at this and I go, I'd rather treat us like we have diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And so if we knew that, what would we do? Well, we wouldn't do any of that. So just do this now so that you don't get those things. That would be my advice. All right. Thank you for that one, Kath. And if you'd like to submit a question, head over to my Facebook page at JJ Virgin Official or at Instagram at jj.virgin and jump in and join me for some of my Facebook Lives. Super fun, and I love interacting with you. Now, this is the gratitude portion of the show. This is when I appreciate and acknowledge someone who has been so super kind to leave a review. And these are important because, people, a lot of podcasts out there now, and people look at podcasts and go, what should I listen to? And they do that and they look and they go, well, Andy Falco gave JJ 5 stars, so maybe I should listen to that. And says, thank you, JJ, for creating this podcast. I love all the episodes. Super appreciate that. And we all love these testimonials, these endorsements so much. The whole team reads them. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. If you're listening and you have not done it yet and you feel so inclined, we'd all appreciate it. Just jump on over to iTunes and leave a review. All righty. Thank you so much. See you next week.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.